People versus big tech. My name is Zach Tominelli. I am the consumer protection advocate for VPIRG. VPIRG is the Vermont Public Interest Research Group. We are the state's largest environmental and consumer protection advocacy organization with 50,000 members and supporters across the state. We've been around since 1972. People probably have some level of familiarity with VPIRG. Maybe think of us a little bit more for like our environmental work. And I'm sure if you lived in Vermont long enough, there's a good chance at some point you've probably at least had an interaction with one of our summer canvassers at your doorstep. But consumer protection has been a kind of key part of VPIRG's work since the very beginning. We were always kind of looking for issues where industry is maybe putting their profits over the safety, well-being, health of us individuals as consumers or our communities. Going all the way back to we took on sort of the hearing aid industry who were kind of price gouging and charging a lot. We've taken on the rent-to-own industry in consumer protection. We fought for things like right to repair, labeling, safer products. But in the recent years, our consumer protection work has focused a lot on the digital space. We kind of call it digital consumer protection or online consumer protection. And that's largely because that's where we as consumers are really kind of participating in the economy more and more, whether we want to or not. And we'll talk about that a little bit tonight. Even if you kind of consider yourself a offline person, the way our information economy has evolved, information is being collected about you, and you are participating in that, and you kind of almost have to, to exist in our society. So we focused a lot of our work there, and in particular, we focused a lot of our work on protecting consumer data privacy and trying to enact, data privacy reforms, particularly a comprehensive data privacy reform. And you'll hear that word a lot tonight. That's going to be a big theme, this concept of privacy. In fact, as Rep. Priestley and I were kind of discussing this tour, and often in the shorthand we call it the privacy tour. It actually evolved into the people versus big tech. But the reason why privacy is so essential is I think and we're going to give people an opportunity to kind of voice their ideas, their thoughts, their concerns, but a lot of the concerns that you likely have when it comes to big tech, whether it's, maybe harmful scams or harassment, maybe discrimination, maybe you're concerned about the role of AI in decision making, maybe, you're worried about various algorithms and patterns and, how people are interacting with technology, its impact on our communications. All of these things, a lot of them, maybe almost all of them, go all the way back to the collection, or I would argue the over-collection of personal consumer information or consumer data. So privacy is going to be a big theme here. You'll see we have a section, what is privacy? And we're going to talk about that. And that's because this collection of data is really, really essential. So we'll talk a bit about that. A little bit of just like housekeeping the business. Our friends from Town Meeting TV are here recording. Thank you. Recording, not live streaming. We're not live, but this will be up for viewing later on. This is a privacy event, so if people are kind of not eager to necessarily be on camera, maybe stay kind of toward the back. But paradoxically, we're calling this the people versus big tech. If we are going to sort of succeed in taking on big tech and discussing these issues, we need people willing to kind of publicly be out here and having these kind of discussions. So thank you for coming out. Which brings me to the next part, the format. You'll notice we're not giving a big presentation here. We don't have a bunch of videos. It's actually going to be a low screen time sort of event. We want to hear from all of you. This is going to be very much discussion based and give you a chance to voice your concerns, your thoughts. We will be sharing information. There will be a section appropriately for Halloween time where Monique will scare you with the scariest privacy and tech stories. Yeah, so we didn't plan it this way, but it is Halloween time, so if we could do it around a campfire, we would have. So we'll do a little bit of that. So we will be sharing information, but we're going to try to have this not be a ton of us talking at you, but us talking with you. So we would definitely love to do that. And I mentioned the hard stop. If people need to kind of get up, use the restroom or whatever, just come and go as you please. We're going to keep this pretty casual, I would say. And so I'm going to turn it over in a second to Rep. Monique Priestley, who is really going to captain the ship and take us to some spookier harbors and then some safer harbors where we, get excited about all the things we can do.
He's getting more theatrical.
I know, we're working this. I know. But before we do that, I do want to recognize we have some other distinguished elected officials in the audience. So we'll start with the first individual here. I'm putting you on the spot, but Representative, if you want to just stand up, introduce yourself, and let us know maybe who you represent and what brings you here today.
Yeah, Troy Hendrick, I represent Burlington. I'm here because I support anything Monique does. No, I want to be ready. I want to be ready for the conversation we have to have in the building as well.
We hear, I support Monique, we hear that a lot, and this is now our fourth one of these, so I know, no, it's all organic, I swear, we're all about organic here. Yep.
Doug Bishop, I represent part of Colchester, and I would echo what Troy has said, is that I want to be better informed and ready for the conversation. We're increasingly going to be talking about these issues in the building, I know, so that's what I'm here for, and to listen to and be part of the conversation.
Cool, Lisa. And Kate? Kate Nugent, I represent a portion of South Burlington. Actually, this is in my district, so thank you for being here. Thank you for hosting us. But yeah, I think we need to reimagine our Bill of Rights with the data situation we have at the moment. And I love, all the work that Monique's doing. I think it's really important. So thank you.
So without further ado, I'm going to formally hand the microphone over to our leader for the evening.
All right. Great, and we're not amplifying, so if hopefully we're loud enough. But for the recording, we got to do the mic thing. So first, thanks to all the representatives who showed up. And then also, in addition to VPIRG being an amazing partner on this, we have Black River Innovation Campus, Vermont Creative Arts Network, ACLU VT, EPIC, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, the Greater Burlington Industrial Corporation, I only wrote the acronym, and Grow Digital Skills. And so then I will just tell you a little bit about me, and also just thank you for being here. I will explain a little bit of why we're doing this as we go, but it's crucial to have people show up and have this conversation with us, and every single time we do, I am not only taking away little sound bites that are so helpful in the storytelling piece of this, but it also is just really helpful to ground our work in this as we go. So thank you for being here. There is no pressure that everyone needs to share, but with this small of a group, everyone will have an opportunity to share, so I just encourage that. So if you're quiet, maybe try to boost yourself to engage. If you tend to talk a lot, I might try to politely just nudge you into we got to keep going. No offense to you. And also, when it comes to big tech, this brings up a lot of very visceral kind of areas that people are concerned about. We're going to stay focused on digital kind of online tech privacy, although we could go down 100 different rabbit holes when it comes to concerns with tech. But data privacy, if we could. And maybe AI, a little bit of AI, but generally we're talking about privacy. So who am I? So I am in my third year, second term at the legislature. I live in Bradford, so an hour and a half on the New Hampshire border. And my whole career has kind of been in two phases. So the money-making side has been really since elementary school at this point. It was starting to take apart computers and build websites, and that led to high school. I was always in the computer lab, so the network administrator at the time was like, "You want to make some money?" And I just said yes. I didn't realize he was giving, for me, I was like, money as a kid, let's go. For him, it was like, I'm going to give her all the stuff I don't want to do, which is climb up and down ladders and wire the entire high school for Ethernet and install all the computers and then help all the teachers who are frustrated with this stuff and be the one to help them with their printing issues. And then that turned into also just side hustles as a teenager doing web designs. My first kind of job in college was doing computer lab support. I did a lot of years of helping elderly individuals navigate their email and just websites and how to use Google and how to make sure they can see their grandchildren. Such fun, different variety of age spans and helping people. My passion is really making sure that people find tech approachable, they can be less scared about it, and they can use it because I love tech. This is not an anti-tech event. It is let's make tech safe for people so they can actually engage. And so, yeah, and then I took on jobs. I took on an internship at a printing press, which, that was like, here's some paper data files, and you have all summer to hand enter these. And I said, give me the Excel sheet. I will import it, write a script, and import the whole thing. And now I'm done with my summer job in 10 minutes. So using tech to like automate and make things efficient is, again, like a passion area for me. And that kind of led in a lot of different ways to, like, I was a network administrator for a college at one point. I then in grad school, I took a job with a startup software as a service company that did online registration catalogs for university programs that aren't the primary kind of universities. So like lifelong learning programs, workforce development programs, tech camps. And how do you basically, like, had every role in that company over 14 years except for like sales and the back end engineering, so customer support and doing the front end of our web design, and then also again kind of like translating, like if you have a lifelong learning program that needs to upload 10 years of history, or major university workforce program that needs to upload 20 years of like registration data, how do you kind of work through with somebody who might not be tech minded on that side to make it safe and bring over the right amount of data? And then the whole other half of the non-money making side of my life has been community engagement. I ran a nonprofit that I started, a community center for 9 years, in Bradford, and we did civic engagement classes, we did STEAM education, we did community conversations about how to engage. So all of this is very much kind of like a thing I love to do. So all of that to say, and now actually I haven't said this at a private store. We're gonna share new things with each other. I've actually been, because of all this work, I actually ended up taking on a role doing privacy and AI compliance for a software company, and then also another company doing kind of like marketing analytics for a startup. So I'm actually kind of being in the space that I'm trying to regulate, which is fascinating and really helpful to like learn from the business point of view too. So that is who we are. What are we doing next? Who are you? Okay, so we're on the who are you piece. So if in this case, we're gonna just go around, because I would love to get an idea of like who you are, where you're coming from, and what brought you out here tonight. But if you don't want to share, just say pass or just use a code name. Remember, it is being recorded, so maybe don't share details that you don't want to have on the internet. But yeah, maybe we'll just pass around the mic and just do quick intros, and pass it if you don't want to, which is fine.
Okay, I'm Kathy Cahill. I live in New Haven, and I'm here with two of my cohorts. We're the subcommittee, the Big Tech subcommittee of the Bristol Area Indivisible chapter. Awesome. And so,
yeah, I'm Denny May in the same group. I've been a voice in the wilderness on this issue since I read Neil Postman's book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, closely followed by Shoshana Zuboff's Age of Surveillance Capitalism, and have been beating that drum for years at the cost of friends and all kinds of things, looking for colleagues interested in this, and finally found some in Bristol. Also in Essex, I did some stuff with the anti-Amazon fight there. So I'm glad to see this here.
Thank you. I've never sworn so much at a book in my life as Shoshana Zuboff's Age of Surveillance Capitalism.
If you have surveillance capitalism on your people versus big tech bingo card,
Yeah, it has
cross
come
that
up.
off,
Yeah.
that comes up every time.
Hi, Shoshana, if she's watching this.
Linda Gianti. I'm with these wonderful people, part of Bristol Area Indivisible. And when Denny suggested we start a new subgroup of big tech, I just jumped on it. And part of that is because I got to work with Michael Wood Lewis for 13 years at Front Porch Forum. So I kind of drank the Kool-Aid on how some of this stuff was troublesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Why don't I
Go that
yeah, we can. Yeah, we'll go around this way. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Alex Demily. I do economic development in Chittenden County, and we know Representative Priestley through her work on the House Commerce Committee. But really excited to be here and learn more. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Kantorowski. I'm a technical architect, and I work in the federal space. I'm here because, like all of us, I'm worried about privacy, especially for our children. So that's me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Lowell. I work at an organization called Public Assets Institute, and we work on state policy to ensure that everybody can have their basic needs met, which includes a lot of government programs that know a lot about you. And it's really important data, and it is being shared in inappropriate ways right now that are both dangerous to people immediately and potentially limiting them from accessing benefits in the future. So that's what brought me to this space.
Introduced myself earlier as Doug Bishop, Colchester representative. I had the good fortune out of undergrad about 36 years ago working on staff of Senator Leahy in Washington. And while I was not on the issue areas at hand here of privacy, I think that was an early introduction for me of someone who can be and should be, that we all should be passionate about thinking about issues related to privacy. Those issues have evolved a great deal over the years. And again, that's why I'm here tonight, is to continue to try to keep up on the evolution of issues of privacy. And I have a law degree that I haven't used in a while, but so from an academic standpoint, also interesting to dive into it.
Hi, again, Troy Hedrick, State Representative for a portion of Burlington. In addition to my legislative work, I work at the University of Vermont, so another sort of lens that I'm watching this through is UVM is about to transition to a Salesforce software that will track student data, and I'm kind of curious on what we're opening up by doing that.
My name is Amy Taylor. You all are much more up to date than I am. I became interested several weeks ago when I saw the Great Hack. I have several worries. I'm worried about the Ice Center in Williston and how they may be surveilling my Facebook, because I'm going to be in jail if they start that. Yeah. I'm also, I'm worried about the progression of what I saw in the Great Hack, AI in politics and how it's going to be used, and how anybody's going to know what's real and what's not real. You know, I saw him say that. I know he did. You know, and I'm also worried about individual pricing. You know, if somebody's got so much information on you that they know your credit score and they're going to charge you a different price than they charge everybody else. Yeah, okay, good.
Hi everyone, Summer Colley. I'm a resident of Colchester and I work at the UVM Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships. I'm also studying data science and complex systems, and I'm interested to be a part of this conversation because so often regulation and government action is very far behind tech. So I'm glad that you guys are opening this up and yeah, letting us be a part of it.
Hi, my name is Maggie. I'm from Burlington. I have a lot of the concerns that everyone else does. But I've been off of Facebook for like 2 years, and friends were like, what happened to you? They were like, did you disappear? Are you still alive? But then last fall, a lot of the apps were having new agreements, and I actually read some of them. They said, oh, we're going to, you know, keep monitoring your position. Like it was one of the GPS apps. I'm like, I don't want that. So there's a lot I probably don't know, so that's what I'm here to learn.
Introduced myself earlier, Kate Nugent. I'm a state rep from this area of South Burlington, and I guess I would just add, I've also been reading and the anxious generation, which I've now starting to think of like anti-social media. It's really horrible, and I think that's just bubbling up for me. And also, you know, the connection between free speech and data privacy is really important, I think, to everything.
I'm Candace. I agree. I think there's a lot I don't know, and that really worries me. That's why I'm here.
I'm Kathy Fouts.
Sorry.
I agree with Candace. I'm sort of here observing. I am about to retire after 45 years as a paralegal, and I need to hire you to set up my workstation at home. So I too am absorbing, and I'm a member of Heinsberg Resists and Champlain Valley, Campbell's Hump Initiative, and so just very concerned about everything that's going on in the last few months.
Hi, Andy Barker. I work at the Vermont Community Foundation. I think people have covered most of the territory. One thing I'll add is that I think there's a commercial sort of exploitation around, our lives. Facebook is monetizing people's relationships. That drives me crazy. And so for me, there's a kind of economic piece of this. And there's also just a personal sovereignty piece of this. I really, the idea of a surveillance state in particular, makes it harder to imagine individuals making choices that aren't steered by algorithms and marketing imperatives and, just all the dots connect. So those two pieces for me too.
I'm Mark Johnson. I've been a journalist here in Vermont for 43 years, and I just want to know, I feel very naive on how exposed we are. I'm told all the time I can't use the same password for all of my sites, so I'm here to learn.
Thanks for admitting that. I'm Lauren Glendavidian. I work at CCTV Center for Media and Democracy. I'm also on the board of the Center for Digital Democracy, and Jeff Chester has done quite a lot of work currently on AI and how it is basically persuading people to buy things without anybody even really knowing it. And this whole question of the surveillance economy. I mean, we think we have an entertainment economy, but it's not. It's a surveillance economy. Is of grave concern to me. And unlike some of you who are new to this, I've been doing it for so long. The tunnel is so long and dark, and the capitalist prerogative is so powerful and becoming even more so, that I just really appreciate that you're here shedding some light and hope so that we can gain agency in what little ways that we can to keep the doors from shutting entirely. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Michael Wood-Lewis with Front Porch Forum. We're small tech, just to be clear. I was really glad to see the framing, the people versus big tech. I've been talking, as some people here have acknowledged, about this stuff for years and years and years. And I find many people don't respond, as I would hope they would, to the concept of privacy. What do I got to hide? It's like, oh, you're missing the point. Like, how do I convey this? Consumer privacy. Well, I didn't buy anything from Google, so I got nothing to worry about. So that term is just so hard. I understand where it's coming from technically, but so we often talk about the problems of big tech. People get big oil, big pharma, et cetera. I think that does well for a lot of folks. Anyway, glad to be here today. And I've got about 100 things to say, so I better stop there.
We're going to have coffee, Michael. Cool. So I'm going to just real quick, I'm going to give the mic back to all of you, actually. So I just want to go over, what are we doing here? And so generally, and I'll fill in some more gaps later on more of the weeds of this a little bit. But what has been happening in the State House, and just actually all over the country, and I'll go through all of what is actually happening with a bunch of more details here, but we are generally seeing a trend where we are trying to pass strong consumer protections, and in general, a lot of states have really strong consumer protection acts from the 60s usually, and at this point, I'll go through some of the dates of federal and states, kind of sectoral bills as we go. But at this moment, what we're trying to do is Vermonters generally don't have you just don't have a consumer protection law that protects you when it comes to data privacy, general operating online data privacy. And then there's lots of little pieces there. But what we've been trying to do is pass a bill that actually will move things forward. The thing about that is, of course, then it becomes a big target for big tech, because how things work in legislatures is all the states copy from each other, right? So if Vermont that, there will be a message of like, oh, each state has a different thing, and to a certain extent, sure, like it could be hard for businesses that operate nationally, but there's lots of areas that have, there's a million different insurance laws, and like businesses figure out how to navigate those, right? But like, if we are able to pass a strong bill, it means that the other states will copy us because we're copying them. We're all building off each other. I'm working in lots of different networks with multiple legislators from other states. We're all working together to try to do something. And so ultimately, last year we had basically a strong consumer protective bill, and then a bill that literally had a line in it that said nothing in this act should be construed as giving access to Vermonters the Consumer Protection Act protections that underlie already from the 1960s. So it's like a very industry-friendly bill that is trying to strip Vermonters of existing protections you have, not only to like give you loopholes for the future, but strip existing rights. So that basically we're in a war between those two things. We pushed and pushed and pushed, and by the end of the session, I basically went to the speaker in my chair and said, I never said I was on House Commerce, but I'm on House Commerce. So my chair is Michael Marcotte. He's amazing. And I was just like, we can't pass this bill as a weak bill the way that the industry is trying to get us. Because not only is that going to affect all of the Vermonters in a negative way that gives people some kind of like semblance of like, I'm protected, like, because I have a privacy bill, not letting people know that like it's a bill full of shit and it's not going to actually protect anybody. But also then other states will copy people, and then more Americans also across the country then don't have safe protections. So I basically, at that moment, I had sat down with Google, and I sat down with like a guy who lobbies for all of the different big tech companies, and was like, are we negotiating or not? And it was very much like, no, we're not. Like, you're gonna pass our weak bill. And then so I went to the speaker in my chair and said, we have to pause right now. And I promise that I will go all around the state, and I will actually get Vermonters' voices in that building rather than just having paid lobbyists that are representing big tech. So that is what you're participating in. Thank you for being here. Well, ultimately, like, we do actually need people. And I'll say this at the beginning, usually I say at the end, like, as far as agency and leaving you with a sense of hope, like, I'm going to try to scare the crap out of you with a lot of stuff that's going on that you probably don't realize is going on. But then what I want you to walk away with is in every state in the country, even if it's a really populated state, it only takes like 3 to 5 individuals contacting their legislator on any given issue to say, please stop what you're doing, or please do better, or whatever it is. When you email, you text, you call, 3 to 5 people per legislator to get them to be like, oh, wait, I got to actually read that bill. I got to support this thing. I got to figure out what's going on. I got to cut through all the noise, because we have thousands of bills every year in every state, and it's hard to do that. So anyway, so just by being here, 3 of you could make a huge difference. So anyways, just walk away with that. This one's like truncated, so my timing is all messed up. But I know we're gonna go. So we're gonna do just a round of like pass the mic around. I was watching a privacy documentary that's gonna come out soon, Privacy People, and people like Shoshana Zuboff that was brought up is in it, and so many other amazing champions. And they went on the street and they were just like, what is privacy? To just random people on the street. So this is our turn to do, what is privacy? There's no wrong answers. And we probably won't be able to get to everybody like we do because of the shorter time, but would love to hear just anything, even if it's like, I don't know. So yeah, anybody. Yes.
I guess this is as much a question as anything, or maybe it's a statement, that I think there could be confusion in people's minds about privacy, in that we think about privacy from a government entity. Privacy that we don't have to allow the police to enter our house without a warrant, that sort of thing. And so I'm wondering where in the conversation and how we introduce into the conversation that people, what rights do they have in the corporate environment for privacy, and distinguishing that from where people may get confused or thinking of it more narrowly.
Anybody else? Again, no wrong answers. What is privacy? What does it mean to you? Oh,
The ability to lead my life without major corporations building profiles, very detailed profiles about me and my spouse and my kids. And that's going on right now, despite all our best efforts to individually shield.
For me, privacy is being able to choose who sees my information, being aware of who sees it, and not having government or big tech access my information without my knowledge.
I think for me, privacy is kind of almost like a spiritual thing in a way. It's like the ability to have my own thoughts and think and say things before other people process them. And that's really important, I think, to having relationships too, and just processing my own thoughts. So yeah, I had more, but the thoughts were taken away, but not very.
I didn't know if you were.
No, that's okay.
I'll be the passer. That's great.
I was just going to layer on to what you said, because I was thinking self-determination. And the second piece is having control over the actions that big tech or anyone takes over my data, not just gathering it.
By all means.
From a business perspective, some years ago I was surprised to learn that the Google Analytics that we had baked into our website to help us track web traffic, so we'd know what was successful and what wasn't, was actually primarily designed not for that purpose, but as a surveillance tool for Google to vacuum up all the information about our business, but then also about the visitors to our website. So we stripped that out and went with another option. But that's one version of privacy too, is if you do business with somebody, big tech, you would hope that they weren't vacuuming up all your information of you and your customers.
Yeah, and to hop on that, I would say understanding what I'm agreeing to when I participate online. So transparency in those, what are those called? Those
terms and conditions.
That's it.
End user agreements, a couple different terms. Okay. Anybody else? Again, no pressure. All right. I think we can slide. I'll tee you up here I'll tee you up for this next session. So, a lot of good answers there. A lot of themes that I heard is kind of like this, and it was articulated actually in. Let me try my notes here right. In an 1890 Harvard Law Review article by Samuel Warren and Louis Brandeis, "The Right to be Left Alone." This concept, and that's kind of how that's been articulated, at least in the American concept of privacy. I think there's something to that. And I think that's what brings a lot of the people in this type of room to this event. Just this idea of even if I quote unquote don't have anything to hide, my business is my business. And that's also a little bit of even a Yankee Vermonter mentality a little bit. That being said, a lot of people that we end up talking to that don't kind of come to this room, and I think somebody brought it up earlier, does have that perspective of, well, I don't necessarily really have anything to hide. That's kind of like an animated thing. So as we transition into this next section, and this is maybe the scary ghost story section of it, the why does this matter? So even if you're somebody who you maybe find yourself offline, I don't really use social media, unfortunately, as we're going to discover, no matter what, if you're trying to exist, even if you're trying to participate in this economy, it's hard to avoid being tracked, being having your information taken. And then even if you feel like, quote unquote, I don't have anything to hide, and for what it's worth, I mean, people should be allowed to maybe be able to Google maybe potentially embarrassing things about their health or that sort of stuff without kind of having profiles. We all might have, quote unquote, something to hide, even if it's not something necessarily like illegal or anything like that, just the ability to have some privacy. But even if, you're saying like, oh, I don't have anything to hide, how is it a big deal if maybe, companies start to learn that I like to buy blue mittens and maybe I'm going to get deals for blue mittens, or maybe they understand that I have a dog and now I'm going to get served up like a lot of dog content. Like, why is that a problem? And on the surface, it maybe doesn't seem like that's a problem, but we're going to talk a little bit about why that is a problem. So I'm going to try to tee you up there for that.
Great job.
So why does it matter?
I'm going to add, so thank you. Those were really great examples to share. And I think something, and this comes from also, again, the kind of the work from Shoshana Zuboff and Neil Richards, Why Privacy Matters, and just in general, like a lot of folks who are academics who are studying this, like thinking about, as Zach has in his notes too, is like we have protections for things like not letting people just walk into our homes. Like we would expect that's illegal, right? We would expect that if somebody comes in and puts a recording device in our flower pot, like them using that information, the recording is illegal, right? Like without our permission. And then, going to our kitchen table and taking documents of pictures of our driver's licenses or things like that. Like you'd want to know who's doing that. You'd want to know where that information is going. And you can have some assumption that if they're doing that, they're either going to be arrested or you could sue them if they misuse your information, right? But I've been in so many rooms with big tech where we have this debate of like, they're like, oh well, you don't need any more laws, you don't need any more regulations, because there's laws against bias, there's laws against discrimination, there's laws against trespassing, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but guys, come on, like that when somebody's gonna try to sue you because you violated something for discrimination in a digital form or bias in a digital form, you're going to say that the underlying laws don't actually apply because it's just like new versions. So like, yes, we do actually need the digital versions to keep up. And I think like a fundamental aspect of privacy is people were getting to is like the autonomy and the freedom and like the ability to like be a human and choose what you share and don't share. Also just thinking about all of the times in your life, and again, actually somebody reminded us, you said the American culture piece. This is like culturally what I'm going to say is like kind of like American, and I know that like around the world there's different degrees of, everybody has their own kind of like cultural definition of what privacy is too, so that is important to say. But generally, like at a certain age, when you have kids, like you at some point teach them you don't just walk in on the bathroom on somebody, or you don't tell family secrets to people, or whatever it is. Like there might be an element of like there is privacy at a very young age. And then think about all the times that you are in relationships with different friends, or you switch jobs, or you go to different schools, and all of the different aspects along your timeline where you might have changed the different things that you choose to disclose to different groups of people at different times, and in a way kind of remade yourself because you have the autonomy to like present who that is. You don't have to, like, no one is going to, hopefully, like, you do have the ability to do that, and not everyone knows everything that's ever happened in your life, but companies do know everything that's happened in your life, right? Like, that is what we're talking about. Like, you don't actually have the ability to control who knows what anymore. And so we're going to get to it's not really ghost stories because these are real things. So these are real examples I'm going to tell you. So like, why does this matter? And Michael's doing a great job of like setting up kind of the issues of profiling of people. So we're going to build out the resources page on the website, the peopleversusbigtech.com. And then I'm going to add like kind of a engagement page. So, we're going to have resources so you can see kind of like videos of what's happening, tools so that you can try to protect yourself, because we're not going to be able to get to all of it today. And then kind of a engagement piece for you to engage with this process if you'd like to moving forward. But on the website, there's a great video, and it's actually a friend is in this, and they're talking about car privacy. And there's a great snippet where, there's this guy who is just having an interview, and he's talking about how his insurance rate just like doubled one month. And he tried to contact the insurance company, and they wouldn't tell him like why this automated price just like doubled, right? And so he went to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, well, you should probably go and download, and anyone can do this. I'm still waiting on mine, so maybe they're not going to give it to me because they know who I am. But LexisNexis and other credit reporting agencies, like they, data brokers that are sharing and selling your data, they have consumer reports on all of us, right? And like some of them are a book. And in those reports, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of data points. And it could be like, how likely is Monique to go to an urban environment in the next 6 months? How likely is Monique to own or buy a yacht? How likely is Monique to buy a skateboard next month? Does Monique like chocolate? Does Monique like the color blue? How much does Monique make? How much did she make 10 years ago? Like all this stuff, just gazillion data points. And so we all have those reports on us that are out there, and companies are buying and selling them in order to advertise to us. So the lawyer said, go and get that report. And then he went and looked at the car portion, because there's so many different sections of this report that they have on us. And in there was a data point that he had a near collision every single day. And so in the video, there's this cute little, he's like, driving, he's like, I was trying to figure out what this was, and then it shows his car driving home at night and a little cat running right in front of his car. And he's like, oh, my cat knows the sound of my vehicle. How many of us have those, or dogs, and wants to be fed. And so every single day I have to hard brake on my car in order to not hit my kitten. And now my insurance is doubling because my car my insurance company, my car reported it to my insurance company, which then thinks I'm hitting a car every single day, or a tree, or insert any other thing, and it's a cat. So that is like a real thing where the cars are, there's cameras all over, depending on, like maybe somebody in Vermont, like there's lots of people in Vermont that have really old cars, and they're like, well, I don't have cameras in mine, and that's fine. But like most of us, if you have a new car, you have a ton of cameras on the inside, you have a ton of cameras on the outside, and they are recording the audio, they're recording video, they are sharing all of that data. Example actually, I have a friend in cybersecurity, and I gave him shit because he kept looking at me, and there was like a ding that went off, and over and over, and I was like, what is that ding? And he's like, oh, it's the warning that I'm not looking at the road. I was like, how have you not turned that off yet? Are you kidding? You know what this is. But anyways, the idea that it is monitoring everything you do, and every single little thing you do is an element that feeds into being sold to an insurance company, which then feeds into an AI or automated system where they are making decisions on how safe of a driver you are and how much they should raise or lower your limit. And if you're like, oh, well, I don't care, I'm a really safe driver. Okay, but then think about the cameras on the outside of your car. We live in Vermont. And think about the people who are driving and passing you on the highway. There's plenty of articles about how your cameras are also tattling on everybody who's driving around you. So you're doubling somebody else's insurance, right? So I know that's a hyperbole, but it's not in a lot of ways. This is happening. So cars are awesome. Go to privacy4cars.com. I'm going to give them a shout out. I haven't done that before. So then let's think about, again, people who are saying I'm not on social media, and maybe I don't use email, maybe I don't even own a phone. I live in an apartment complex, and every single window of my apartment complex, except for mine, has a camera pointing outside my window, right? Out the windows. At some point, I'm like, okay, fine, everybody has, a Ring camera or something, and I have to just deal with it, and, whatever. But recently, in the last 2 weeks, there was lots of articles about how Ring is actually doing facial biometric scans of every single face that it picks up on those cameras. And then there's other articles about how Ring and Flock, which reports to the government, as somebody mentioned ICE, so how Ring and Flock and all these other companies are basically collecting mass surveillance data on everybody. You don't have to own the camera. Again, your neighbor can own the camera. And then your movements and your facial biometric scan is then being shared with the government and or who knows who else. Right? So you don't have to have any of this tech. You just have to be a human walking around on the earth. Other things are like airlines. So some airlines have started, I feel like this is like, some are saying like, no, we don't do this, and some are saying they do it. So who knows? But like if they're not doing it now, they're going to do it if they're going to be competitive, where the profiles on people and then their actions on social media and their actions everywhere are then feeding into like, my aunt just died. I posted on social media. People know I have to go to like, let's say Texas to like go to a funeral. I got to do it on Saturday. That's what the date of the funeral is. I didn't buy a ticket yet. I'm going to go buy on the internet, buy an airline ticket. But now the airlines know that I'm desperate to get to Texas for that funeral on Saturday. So like, how much am I willing to pay? But also they know how much I make, how much my family members make, and how much I can afford. How much is just enough that I have to buy that ticket, and I won't stop buying that ticket. This one I got directly from a major global financial transaction company the other day, which was great. He's going to give me more examples. So there was a major grocery store that keeps an intelligence score on everyone. So the intelligence score is actually more sad than I would hope that it was an intelligence score of like just knowing about people. It is actually how smart or stupid are you? And like, what is your IQ, and how much can a grocery store for online shopping adjust the price of groceries without you realizing you're paying an unreasonable amount for that item? That is a real example. I'm not going to say the company, but it's a real example. We'll go on the same grocery store thing. So you, again, maybe you're not on social media, maybe you're not doing the things, but you have to buy food at some point, right? If you're buying it online, you're probably actually more of a victim of surveillance pricing. But if, say you're walking into a grocery store, probably not the mom and pop that's right yet, hopefully, but say a major chain. And there's cameras everywhere. You may think they're just for fraud and for shoplifting. They are not. They all have profiles on all of us. So you get a biometric scan of your face. You also have a cell phone in your pocket, which you have, you enter when you check out, you enter your phone number, so you get loyalty pricing. You get a discount. That phone is in, so the store knows when you walk in. Also, it's in your pocket, and you're walking around the store, and it knows exactly which items you're buying, not only from just checking out, but like which items you were in front of. In some cases, there's been examples where stores actually had digital labels, and they were like adjusting the digital label versus like depending on who was in front of the label, which is wild. But also like it knows all of your movements in the store, which aisles you're going by. It could serve you ads based on the exact location of you in the store at the given time. How much do you, that profile, where it's thousands of data points of me liking chocolate, maybe I'm in front of the brownies. Didn't give me an ad for the brownies. I'm making this up, but I'm not really making this up. Like, this is how much data there is on us. I'm not. I try to not do the company names, but yeah. But yeah, there's companies. Yeah.
Absent some sort of digital pricing.
Yeah.
How can they change the price of a can of tomatoes for me versus you?
So absent the digital pricing, say we're buying the tomatoes online. If you and I actually did this experiment with a bunch of friends from all over the country. We went on to like Kroger's website. And we all entered, and we all had different prices for a gallon of milk. So that is a lot of online shopping doing this.
And I would say it probably is only a matter of time. And it's an interesting thing. We always kind of see this in Vermont. Not that we're like a backwater, but we are not always the first to adopt.
It might be 10 years before we get this.
If you go to like San Francisco or a lot of these, the grocery stores have the digital pricing. And it'll only be a matter of time before, like the major chains probably start to adopt that here to be able to do that. But you're right. No, if you go into most stores here right now, there's a printed price. They can't change that.
Yeah.
But it's only a matter of time.
Okay, I'm going to slam through the rest. Okay, so let's go on that same kind of like surveillance pricing automated thing where, and I think people might have brought it up one before we started, was think about like ride sharing. So say your Lyft or Uber or another type of like, just as an example of a company that offers ride sharing. And Zach and I are waiting outside an event at the same time on our different phones. We both have socioeconomic differences. We both have different preferences. We both have numbers of times that we use Lyft and Uber, whatever it is. And we will get different prices. And it might even know how, like, depending on the locations we're going to, how much we need to get there. Maybe Zach needs to go to work and he's gone there every single day, so it knows he needs to get there, versus I'm going out to lunch somewhere. Maybe I don't need to get there as fast. And hotels. So I had a friend who was reading the rebuttal documents they had as all of the kind of big tech lobbyists are flooding all of the representatives and senators with emails saying, like, Monique's bill is going to kill the economy, and here's all the lies. And then I would basically prepare documents where, like, here's the lie they said, and here's why, here's the lie they said, and why. So I had friends reading these documents. And so one who was completely out of the world of tech and all of this in the legislature, she read it and she's like, wait a second, my family and I are going to a hotel outside of Boston this weekend and there's no staff. So, like, but I gave them my driver's license. Are you telling me now that they're going to scan all of our faces and that I have no control or ownership over any of those face scans, but I'm paying a lower cost because there's not going to be any human staff, and now I'm a Vermont resident and I have no facial biometric data privacy or consumer privacy protections? I'm like, yes. She's like, I changed it to a Super 8. We're going to pay a much lower price. I don't really want to stay there, but, like, I also don't want my face scanned. Loyalty. So we did loyalty shopping, but also just Michael brought up an example of, like, business. Business is kind of like being used basically by big tech to, like, give up information. So I have a guy he actually was one of the primary architects of Microsoft 365, and he left and he's starting his own platform now. But we were talking, he owns a restaurant. I'm not going to give too many more details, but I was asking him, we were talking about loyalty programs. He's like, yeah, I have people like Marriott and others come in all the time and try to say, like, I need to be a part of a loyalty program. I'll get paid, and then I'll get kickbacks, and customers will get kickbacks for, like, using the loyalty programs when they go to Marriott's and they get suggestions of where to go when they're at a chain, right? And so I was like, well, how do you handle that? Because you know how this works. And he's like, oh, we do everything by paper. I do reviews by paper. I do reservations by paper. I do everything by paper because I'm not willing to sell my customers' data. They're coming to eat. They're not coming to have their entire, history, kind of like me adding to their history of their profile that's going to be used for advertising. Maybe I'll just do one more. Thinking about, we've had, like, medical societies and stuff come in and say, we don't want to be included under the coverage of this bill because we have HIPAA. I'll go a little bit more into HIPAA, but the point of this is, like, HIPAA covers certain transactions. It does not cover web browsing. So a person who left Google, who was running their, like, analytics cookie team, he has a software that tracks Google now. And so he fed all of Vermont's medical society, like, medical kind of centers data in, and then we did a scan of all of them. And there's quite a few that use a company called CallRail, and CallRail is not covered by HIPAA. It's an AI kind of, like, voice answering system to help make appointments, and CallRail does not, like, it is, let's just say it is not protected, and there are things you can look up online about them. But think about, like, me going to a website and, like, looking up cancer because my cousin has it, but mixed with, like, going to a pharmacy for medication for my cousin, and then mixed with, like, CallRail and things like all of these systems that are not directly protected by medical provider interaction that includes insurance. And all of those little elements could add up to saying, like, oh, Monique's done this, this, and this. She must have cancer. Maybe we should, like, tell her insurance company they should raise the rate because she is now at risk. Like, that type of thing. Or maybe my employer needs to know. Like, some of these things are protected, some of them are not. But all of these things are ways the data could be used. Okay, what's been done? Oh my God, this is the fastest we've ever done this. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more because we have a tighter thing. So what's been done? So in 1974, the oh my God, Privacy Act of 1974. So we have a privacy bill. Julie's anyways, yeah, so we have a privacy bill federally that is generally protects us as far as, like, government use of data. It is not a consumer protection bill. There was actually elements in the 70s when it was trying to have a consumer bill, and those were lobbied out. And there's a whole much more that I went down a not conspiracy rabbit hole with investigative journalists who like knew this whole thing, which was wild, but we almost had them. We almost had consumer protections in 1974. And the only reason we have like the government piece of it is Watergate. So it was really a result of Watergate. So in Europe and things like that, where we're always like, well, Europe takes privacy seriously, like GDPR and things like that we'll hear. And like, why doesn't America? Well, I'm sorry, but Europe had Nazis. Like, literally, they had profiles of people tracking people in order to kill and arrest them. Like, we didn't have that. But, yeah, well, I won't go on that. Anyways, I didn't say it. Other than that, we have little sectoral laws. So we've had the HIPAA. So that is health data, but pay attention to this piece. Only when it's health data that is protected, only in transactions between you and a health provider when it is covered by insurance. So then think about how many Vermonters do not have insurance, and then think about how many providers do not take insurance. And then think about me wearing my Apple Watch and an Oura Ring and all of the things, my phone, tracking my stuff. None of that is connected to insurance. I'm not protected by HIPAA in any of those cases. When it comes to FERPA, so that's education, so that's protecting student information. But again, only certain information on a student, only at certain ages, and then only when it's public schools, not when it's private schools. And then you have Gramm-Leach-Bliley, and you have Fair Credit Reporting Act, so this is like insurance and banking generally. I actually did a super deep rabbit hole dive with our lawyers on financial laws and insurance laws in Vermont. I actually feel generally good about them, so we're not really going after those because they have closed. Generally, Vermont has closed a lot of the loopholes that exist in other states, so that's good. What else? COPPA, so children's online privacy. So we have an older bill that covers certain things, definitely not protective enough, which covers kids up to 13. We passed the age-appropriate design code last year in the State House, which covers basically the equivalent of social media protections for kids under 18. And then this is fast. Okay, and then as far as states go, so when it comes to those were all kind of like individual protections for individual things and individual uses of data. When it comes to states trying to pass comprehensives, meaning as much of coverage as possible for residents of the way that they consume things and buy things and interact, California was the first one to do it, and it was largely kind of like the citizens wanted it, and it was strong, and it was 2018. And then what happened was big tech was like, oh crap, California just passed this really strong thing that's going to change the way we operate. We can't let this spread throughout the entire country. So what they did was introduce their own model in Washington through a big tech employee at the time who was a legislator. They introduced a bill, and that was basically like, what's the like thing that we can get away with that people think they're protected, but they're not really protected because we can like figure out how to like get around these things with loopholes, right? So that didn't pass in Washington, but then it got shared with a legislator in Virginia. And so Virginia basically passed that, and then what they were able to do was like, you have California, and then you have Virginia. Virginia is much more like balanced, much more business friendly, also protects people. And then the idea was to get the Virginia model to spread as much as possible in order so that the population of people covered by a strong California bill was then superseded by the population of people covered under the industry-friendly bill. And then they could go to Congress and say, hey, look, a majority of Americans love this bill that started in Virginia that is now being passed through all the other states. That's the one they want. You should pass that one federally. And so what has happened? So that is, we're like California, and then we're like 17-ish, 18 now, bills that have passed that model. And then Maryland comes along at the same time as Vermont and Massachusetts, and a model in Washington and Maine, and a bunch of us, New York, all trying to pass basically really strong bills. Maryland did end up getting theirs through, and it just went into effect October 1st. Ours got through the legislature, and it got passed unanimously in the House. It passed in the Senate. It was vetoed by the governor, and then it was overridden in the House, and it was not the override. The override was failed in the Senate side. And you're probably like, well, why? If you're saying all these scary things, why is a veto happening, and why is the Senate override not happening? Lobbying. So big tech lobbying. There's millions of dollars in your state house and every state house across the country. In many cases, people said it is. People who have been there for like 40 years said they've never seen lobbying efforts as intense as what is happening on these bills. And so that is like generally we are here because we're trying to pass something that will actually protect you. We need your voices. So that's what's been done. Yes. We're almost, we have 5 minutes. What time is it? What can be done? We're going to do what can be done really quick. Okay, so what can be done? What can be done is a strong bill can be passed. And I don't want to lobby on this like bill, but I do want to say there are multiple bills and there are multiple ways that they do and do not protect you. What can be done is that I want to pass a strong bill for you. But I need your voices. I need people in the building. I need people to, if you want to like read the bill or you want me to explain the bill, and then you're like, actually, like I like the industry bill. Let's talk about it. Fight with me. I would love to. I would love to have coffee with anyone. I have people who have written basically written testimony after these events and said like, here's a scary story example from my life. Maybe I don't want to come in person, but here's my story so you can share it. Amazing. Maybe you're like, I want to go to the State House or on Zoom, and I want you to ask me questions about scary stuff that happened. Love that as well. Maybe you want to just come from this event and go back to 10 of your friends and say, hey, why don't we have a privacy bill in Vermont? Like, there's a lot of scary stuff happening, and maybe we should start thinking about it and talking about it. Also amazing. You could email Zach or I. You can sign up for action alerts from VPIRG or ACLU. Consumer Reports is an ally in this space. Okay, I don't know what else to say.
Can I?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I just want to I know. No, you did great. Just a quick time check, just so
5 minutes.
Okay. So a thing I want to just kind of get to, because Monique has talked about strong bill versus weak bill, and there are a lot of differences, and these bills, they tend up being long. Ironically, they're somewhat long because so many different groups lobby and want to get exceptions, and so most of the bill is who does this apply to, who does it not apply to, and then they turn around and say, this bill is super long and it's really confusing for people, and it's like, well, you lobby to get all of these exceptions into this bill. That aside, if you take sort of nothing else away, a key thing that VPIRG and other consumer advocacy organizations have advocated for is a concept of data minimization. And again, this isn't the only thing that makes something a good or bad bill, but it is what distinguishes, for instance, Maryland's law that they enacted. And this idea of data minimization, why I want to just take a few minutes to talk about it and why it's so important and very kind of central to everything we've talked about here is, a lot of times the way that we think about data privacy, consumer data privacy in this country, because of the fact that we have these sectoral laws and we have a lot of what people call consent models or opt-in, opt-out models, which is companies can basically do whatever they want with your data as long as they either let you know or sometimes at a minimum get your consent to do so. And we want to pursue an idea that is somewhat radically different, but much more simpler, which is instead of putting that onus on the consumer to navigate all of this privacy, all of this information, we put the onus on the people, the companies, the entities collecting this information to use it in essentially the most minimal and responsible way possible. And what that means is a good data minimization standard would say, a company collecting consumer data can only collect and process that data in a way that is basically reasonable to what the consumer needs or expects for the service that they're providing. So not using it in all of these secondary additional ways, sharing it with additional people. So you're putting that responsibility on the people collecting the data. And the reason why we think that's so important is because a lot of these other bills that have passed, these sort of quote-unquote industry bills, they have things that are called data minimization standards. Sometimes in the bill it says data minimization. And it sounds very much like what they passed in Maryland, but with one key difference. It'll say, company collecting data needs to, only use what is reasonable as is disclosed, so long as they disclose it, which really means they don't have to change their data collection policies in any sort of way. They don't actually need to change how they're processing data as long as they have some kind of privacy policy with the disclosure. That's all well and good, but we know how long those privacy policies are. We know how hard they are to navigate. And if anything, doing that actually incentivizes companies to make them even more unwieldy longer, because if they're doing something, and we've heard some of the examples, the not so ghost stories tonight, they're not going to put that front and center in their privacy policy because you're not going to use that product and so on and so forth. So that, if you take sort of nothing else and you're kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit confused, what makes something weak? What makes something strong? From our perspective, a strong data minimization standard is one of the key things because it kind of changes how we think about data collection in this country. It takes the onus off of us as individuals to be privacy experts and puts it on the would-be data collector to just use that information responsibly and minimally. And that is a big difference that we're pursuing. Yes.
Yeah, so in addition to that was great, Zach. Some things, so we try to tailor this to like audience, things that the audience brings up and then we respond to too. So something that's come up in other town halls that we didn't bring up yet is we have this comprehensive Consumer Privacy Act. We also have things like online safety acts. We have, I'm introducing AI chatbot use protections for minors. We have data brokers, so people who are buying and selling your data. We have, proposals for that, being able, a delete act to be able to delete your information from certain providers if you want to, artificial intelligence kind of like use, surveillance pricing, specific bills. So there's all of these, like as somebody said in the beginning, like we are really far behind as far as keeping up. Summer, you said that, as far as keeping up with tech, because it is constantly lobbied. So we have all of this whole menu of things that we would love to like pass to protect Vermonters. And I would say, I just want to offer that, like, thank you again for coming. Bye, Kate. And we will, like I said, update the website with more information and tools and videos and things like that, ways to engage. But we'll also, at some point, I'll end up emailing kind of an update of what we saw here. That we're going to add 6 or 7 or 8 more events. We've been asked for like 25 more. I don't know that we can do 25 more. But we're going to keep doing this. And so we're going to keep sharing the things that we're also taking away from these. But I am serious. I was not joking when I told several people I want to have coffee. If you want to email me and say I would love to sit down and share a story I have, or ask some questions, or ask you to clarify a thing that you sped through really fast in 30 minutes, let's do it. I will drive to you and do that. And I just want to end that I'm super thankful that you spent the last hour and a half with us. And please don't make it the last time you're engaging with us. We need your help. So, yeah. And I'm also, some people have like left and then they're like, oh, I just told somebody about it and now they want you to go to their library or their house or whatever. That's fine. I think I'm adding more, but I love talking about this stuff. I also love hearing stories. It really helps the process. So thank you for being here.